DIYers, what's going on? Mike Boards with the Mike Boards channel. Thank you for watching. We're talking Outdrive engines. We're going to show you the step-by-step process on how to install a propeller. There's a right way to do this, and believe it or not, there's a wrong way to do this. We're going to do it the right way. Let's get started. All right, DIYers, back at the Craftsman workstation, and again, we're going to show you how to properly install your propeller on your Outdrive. And check this out. Freshly rebuilt both the upper and lower, including the propeller shaft, the drive shaft, the U-joint shaft, everything rebuilt. Bunch of old parts and a bunch of new parts. And scrolling above right now is a link to a video. We actually just primed and repainted our propeller, and in that video you will find links on where to purchase the light gray primer as well as the phantom black spray. However, again, we're going to install our propeller and a couple new parts. We've got the thrust washer, the continuity washer, the castle washer, and that washer right there, which is that piece right there. And this little castle brass washer is this big piece right there. What I'll do now is reposition the lower unit and continue the project. Back to the workbench, I have repositioned the Outdrive. We'll get to that here shortly. I want to show you new compared to old parts, and starting with the left side, the thrust hub or washer. And first glance, two things. Number one, it's a different color, and number two, I noticed it's smaller. And so I called the headquarters Mercruiser technicians and talked to them about it, and they informed me that this part is for a different propeller. So we're going to clean up the original thrust washer and use it. As far as the continuity washer, this is a very unique washer, and it's kind of confusing or tough to see, but each tooth is bent in the opposite direction. So really, when it comes time to install this, there is no right or wrong way to install it. To the right of that is your castle washer. We will use the new one, just a different color. I like that. And the prop washer. And we'll use the original nut. Let's head to the Outdrive. And here's the propeller shaft, the splines, and the thread. And inside here again, the bearing carrier. And as far as the propeller shaft, it makes a beveled upward mold to it right here, just prior to going into the oil seal on the top portion or outer portion of the bearing carrier. And grab your thrust hub washer, as shown here. And the back side actually has a rounded machine cut to it, which will go right on over the splines and mate with that beveled portion of the propeller shaft as shown here. And again, make sure that the thrust hub washer is installed properly. You'll notice the machine cut right here. Next, we need to lubricate the propeller shaft splines with 2,4-C as shown here. There's what it looks like inside. And just grab a little bit on your finger and really lubricate the splines of the propeller shaft. And this is going to make it easier down the road when it's time to take the propeller back off and service whatever you need to service. After lubricating the propeller shaft splines, I cleaned all the grease off my fingers. I'm grabbing the propeller, and as you see here, that is the part that goes on. And just carefully align the splines, and it should go right on, as shown there. Back to the workbench, what I'll do is grab the castle washer, also known as your spline washer, flip it upside down. I'll grab the continuity washer, and I'm going to seat this on the back side or underside of the spline or castle washer prior to installing this on the propeller shaft. In an update again, all I did was install the continuity washer on the underside or back side of that spline washer. Back to the Outdrive, coming inside the propeller, I do want to show you a close-up view where we are right now. You can see just maybe a 1/4 inch of the spline coming out of the propeller, and that's what you're looking for, because again, the castle washer only has about a 1/4 inch of spline machined into it. Another quick reposition of the camera will continue the project. Grab your castle or spline washer as shown here, and carefully slide it and align the splines as shown here and push it flush with the propeller. Next, grab the prop or tab washer and install it as shown here. Last but not least, your prop nut, and the rounded portion will face outward. Do not cross thread the thread. That would not be good. What I recommend doing is hand tightening it first. And once it aligns with the proper tab washer, you will notice that will spin with it, as shown here. See that? And I'll hold the propeller with one hand, and all I'm doing is hand tightening. the propeller nut. From here, what I need to do is grab a block and place it in between the propeller blade and the stand to alleviate the propeller from spinning. I want to keep this in neutral because the next thing we're going to do is apply 55 pounds of torque with our torque wrench. And I don't want that 55 pounds of torque being applied to the internal gears. So again, I'll grab the block and keep the entire outdrive in neutral. There it is, DIYers. I placed the 2x4. I'll raise the camera just slightly. There is how I have it positioned, and I will shift the propeller until the lower blade is flush on that board. Coming inside to the shift crank and make sure it's in neutral. Next, grab my Craftsman torque wrench and I have it set to 55 pounds. And DIYers, no need to rush this. Go slow. Be precise. And all we're waiting on is for this torque wrench to tighten that propeller nut to 55 pounds. And once it gets to 55 pounds, the torque wrench itself will make a clicking sound. Quick update, I applied a second 2x4 to alleviate the propeller from sliding as I applied this 55 pounds of torque on this prop nut. There it goes, 55 pounds is set. Do another close-up and I am going to remove the 2x4s. And the next step, very important, you've got two important things to take into consideration or check per the service manual. Number one, the service manual calls for at least, in other words, a minimum of 2 threads showing on the propeller shaft after you apply the 55 pounds of torque. In our case, it looks like we have 3, almost 4, so we're good. And the second thing, you've got all these tabs on the prop or tab washer, and at least 3 of them have to line up with the slots on the castle washer per the service manual. In our case, we've got one here, and right there. We'll bend those 3 in. What I did next was actually put the 2x4s back in place to alleviate the propeller from rotating. And I'm sure there's easier ways to do this, but this is how I'm going to do it. I'm taking these needle nose pliers with an arc, and I'm taking one jaw and going through the hole of the tab and applying some pressure to the second one, to the third one. And surprisingly, this is pretty friendly. It's very thin aluminum. And unfortunately, it looks like I scratched it. However, very simple fix. I'll touch that up with some paint. And there is the finished product, as you can see. I'll remove the wood. One last thing per the service manual, after you apply the 55 pounds of torque with the torque wrench and you come back down here and check your tab washer in relation to the castle washer slots, the service manual states if the tabs are not aligned, go ahead and continue tightening that nut slightly past 55 pounds until you get at least 3 tabs aligned with the castle washer slots so you can lock everything in place. DIYers, here we are back at the workstation and we hope this video helped. Again, this is how you properly install a propeller on your Outdrive. And what we'll do now is perform a pressure test on the entire Outdrive. And in previous videos, we actually pressure tested the lower unit separately than the upper unit. In other words, we pressure tested the upper unit all by itself, all went well. Then we rebuilt the lower unit and then pressure tested that all went well. However, one last pressure test now that everything is back together prior to adding the gear oil. And that video link is scrolling above. Definitely check it out. Again, we hope this helped. Do us a favor. Below the video, you will see that thumbs up icon. Click on that, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Definitely ring your YouTube bell. That would be very helpful to us. We would really appreciate it. Thanks again for watching. One more thing, DIYers, check this out, a brand new set of decals for the Outdrive. That video link will be down below in the comment section as well as description section. Definitely check it out. That'll make it look a lot nicer.